Hello and welcome back to Catch Up Court, the spiciest core in the land. I go by the name of Heinz. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are providing updates in regards to the Diddy trial. It is going to start on Monday. So I thought I better bring updates in regards to the madness that has been happening during jury selection, because there's been a lot happening and a lot to cover. And joining me to do so is citizen journalist. How are you doing, citizen? How have you been?
I've been doing good, just, catching up on all the madness with this. I usually am covering Baldoni versus Lively, which
Great
is super
coverage.
messy.
Yeah, great
And
coverage, by the way.
thanks. But so this was a little, I never thought I'd say it, but a little needed distraction with Diddy
Yeah.
from all that mess. So thank you for asking me to join.
No, no, absolutely no problem. So let's go through what's been happening, because I've heard a lot of celebrity names come out in regards to during jury selection. I wasn't quite sure. You might know this better than I would. Why was Michael B. Jordan and Kanye West mentioned? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, Michael B. Jordan, I believe, was mentioned because there is a portion in the docs, the original civil docs from Cassie, where she was dating or talking to Michael B. Jordan at some point, and he might have been somebody that Diddy threatened. So that's how his name came up. And then as far as Kanye, I'm pretty sure his name's probably going to come up because he's been the only active celebrity supporter of P. Diddy. It's been silent out there, crickets, like no one's really coming out to support him.
Yeah.
And Ye is the only one that has come out. He's done several X posts on it. I think he even like wrote a song on it. And so that's my speculation as far as how his name's coming up on it.
Nah, like speaking of, yeah, I still can't like remember that tweet that he did in regards to Cassie, the Cassie video, saying that love makes you do crazy things. Did you see that tweet?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That-
he was reaching there for a minute, but yeah, that X post, and then I think he even tried to get his daughter on a song about Diddy. So he's really writing hard for Diddy. He actually posted recently maybe on it. But yeah, he's really going hard for him.
yeah. Also, let's talk about before we go into the jury selection and what come out. Let's talk about the legal team for a minute. There were comments made by Mark Geragos, who is who is also riding hard for Diddy. He was speaking on a podcast, and the judge had admonished him for that. Let me get the link up. Let me get a link up. Damn.
Yeah, he actually I think used to represent Diddy in the past, and he has a podcast with the TMZ host Harvey. It's
Yeah.
called Two Angry Men, and so that's where he went on to talk about the case, and his daughter is actually one is representing Diddy in this trial, and he's kind of like a advisor of sorts, I guess, in the background. He's also been admonished over that, where the prosecution wrote a letter to the judge saying, "Hey, you know, he's talking to the defense team during a jury selection and all this, and he's not in the I forget what you call it, but he's not in the courtroom as an attorney for him, so he shouldn't
Mm.
be allowed to do that."
Okay, okay. Dennis Barron reports here saying it gets even better. Attorney Geragos points out that the court that Cassie Ventura's attorney has made statements that could harm his client, particularly when our counsel publicly protested the exclusion of the assault video. Um, if I could read what was in the transcript quickly, bit hold on. Let me get this up. Says Mr. Gregorius, okay, can I also on the record state a couple of things? I mean, we've got Mr. Wigdor out there who represents victim number one, saying things like it's ridiculous, it's BS that the Cassie tape is being challenged, even though the government subsequently have withdrawn the tape that was referred to. We have Ms. Bloom talking about other witnesses, what we and then it was cut off by the judge, and the judge says, I believe, and you remember that last week on the record I addressed those issues. Mr. Gorgos responds saying, and I think I just need to make the record of Shepard v. Maxwell, Gentile, all of the cases that interpret them are the defendant's right to a fair trial, not the government. And you have seen better than anybody. From what I've seen reported, he's not the official counsel for Diddy. He's part of the jury selection team, isn't he? Yeah.
I don't
Missy.
think he's on record to be a part of anything for Diddy. He's just been there, so
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what what is going on there, where he's kind of like an unofficial kind of advisor to the team. And that was the transcript when the judge called him into his chambers and kind of admonished him for some of the stuff that he had said in the podcast. And his response was kind of that Cassie had also been vocal in saying stuff about the trial, so they were kind of going back and forth. But ultimately, one of the things that came out of that whole thing was that he had on the podcast called the prosecution team a six pack of white women.
Oh, okay.
And that was the biggest thing on why he had called him in to admonish him, was him saying that that was outrageous and uh not like it should never be said to anybody in a courtroom. But Geragos had responded that there is a racial bias lens in the trial, because he's saying that they're trying to take down a black man. That's
Yeah.
his perspective. So he said, he was just giving his opinion, and Cassie has gone on record giving her opinion. So how is this different? But yeah, basically he was just given a warning.
Yeah, like the transcript here says, Mr. Garagos, I think when you've got a black man who's being persecuted, and the client feels like he's being targeted, it's an observation. I've also said things. I've also said other things that I suppose could be brought up, but I will tell you that I haven't attacked Mr. Wigdor or Lisa Bloom or any of the other people who are tangentially related and sitting in the government's route. The judge responds saying, I think this is ridiculous. I think referring to the prosecution in this case as a six pack of white women is outrageous. All right. And I understand what you're saying about the case and everything else, but I think this is outrageous and this would not be tolerated in any court from any lawyer anywhere across the nation. And I'm going to be watching, and I'm going to be listening. All right. Um, so do you think that I mean, I think it sounds like cope, but I want to know what you think. Do you think that there is a racial element into all of this, with the prosecution having all white six lawyers, six female lawyers? Y-
Um, well, I feel like that works against the prosecution. I don't know if that just happened because that just so happened who they had to work the case or
Hmm.
what, but it does, in my opinion, as far as like coming in being a juror, the optics of it seems like, here you have the prosecution team, it's all white, all female, and
Hmm.
then on the other side you have the defense team that's racially and generationally diverse, where you have a black lawyer, a Latino, you have women, you have a younger attorney, and so it's more diverse. I do feel like it's probably going to come into play when it comes to the optics for the jury, but I don't know if that was done on purpose, or if they are trying to attack him, trying to take down a black man or anything like that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do agree that there is going to be a problem with the optics of that, jury
Right.
wise.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think it's desperate because they do, do you think they will bring this case if they have nothing? Because from what I know, from what we've seen so far, all they have is the videotape. Do you think that they have more on him that could be used to try this case?
I do. I think that they they started the case with the Cassie civil lawsuit, and maybe that led to them to start digging, because it
Mm,
seems like the Cassie tape, a lot of people, at least people that I've talked to, think that it's about this domestic violence thing. And the tape is, they just recently said they are going to use some kind of version of the tape, whereas before they said they weren't going to use it. But uh a lot of people think like the whole case revolves around the tape, but it seems like he's being targeted for um, crossing state lines with women, and you know uh, allegedly forcing them to do things
mm,
against their wills, coercing them. His defense is basically saying, that he was a swinger and that this was just his lifestyle, and that it was all consensual. So while the prosecution is saying, he was doing harmful behavior, that I guess they are charging him for RICO, and intimidation and all kinds of other stuff. um he's basically saying like, no, these were consensual acts that just so happen to be over state lines or whatever, and he did nothing wrong. And most recently we just found out on Friday that he's actually using the domestic violence stuff as well, uh like trying to 8 Mile himself like Eminem, like, yeah, I did hit Cassie, but he's trying to say that it was mutual abuse.
yeah.
So he's going to be bringing that up as mutual abuse, and that there was no way Cassie could have been coerced, because of the fact that she would step up to him, and she was a strong woman. And the judge did hit back on his point of view. He said, just because someone's a strong woman doesn't mean they can't be coerced. So he kind of clapped back to the defense on that on Friday. um but I think it is pretty crazy that they're going to try and get in front of it and just admit to it, which he has no choice, because when the video came out, he made an apology video
Yeah.
admitting to doing it. So it's not like he can say, I know they were trying to say the video was edited wrong or whatever. So I don't know if they're gonna try to say that there was something happening before with her, or whatever. Um, but yeah, so that's gonna be part of his defense now too. Is gonna be this mutual abuse.
What do you think of that argument? Like, because that was reported on by TMZ, and as you said, they argued that on Friday, that that there was hitting on both sides. Do you think that this is a good argument to make? in a case like this?
I mean,
Maybe.
it's a choice for sure. Cause it's like, I mean, like I said, it feels like the 8 Mile approach. Like I'm gonna get ahead of it and see how it turns out. And it's like I mean, what other choice do they have? It's on video. He's there. We know that in Heard versus Depp, that was, the mutual abuse that came up. That was one of the defenses there, that it was, both of them were doing it. So I mean, it
Mm,
could work, it could backfire. I don't know.
right. Yeah. Like let's watch that video back. Uh here.
New surveillance footage obtained exclusively by CNN appears to corroborate some of the allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016.
Trigger warning, by the way. I forgot to say that earlier. Trigger warning. Yeah.
A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video.
Be- how is mm, how successful do you think that argument of mutual abuse is going to be? Because when you have something like this, how how on earth can you prove that she was being violent to you as well?
They alluded to having evidence as such. So I don't know what it is that they have, if it's just, witnesses or what kind of evidence they have, but they did allude to that on Friday, that they were going to be bringing in evidence of that. Um i don't i don't think it's going to be successful, but what other choice do they have to try and cure that after that video's out?
Yeah.
From a lawyer perspective, you know what I mean? And I know that this is the one thing that for you, when we had talked about, this was like kind of like the trigger for you, this video, as far as like what had happened. And
Mm,
for a lot of people in the jury selection, the video did come up a bunch. Um, and some jurors were dismissed because of the fact that they, could not be impartial after watching the video.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Some of the jurors were saying that we're gonna get to some of their statements. But yeah, some of the jurors were saying that were were saying that uh they have already watched a lot of YouTube videos about Diddy, and yeah, there was no way for them to be impartial. Um, b- uh, what do you think about Nicole Westmoreland? Because she was added to Diddy's um Diddy's legal team, and it was broke by TMZ that she was a survivor of sex assault. Now I want to ask, do you think that this is like a Trojan horse going in to like take Diddy down, or do you think that she can actually remain impartial in representing Diddy? What do you think of her addition?
Well, there was talks prior to her addition that he was trying to diversify his defense team, right? So this is
Mm.
before Xavier Donaldson came on, which is one of the black attorneys. If you go back to what the defense team looked like before, there was a black attorney on his team who ended up
Oh yeah,
saying,
he ended up
remember,
removing himself. Was it?
yeah,
Didn't he? It's yeah. He
yeah,
said he couldn't. Yeah. Let me
yeah,
try
he
and
ended
find
up
that.
removing himself. So then, there was a chatter going on that, he was trying to add more diversity. And then a day before, I think, the jury selection, he had added Xavier Donaldson to the team. And then there was chatter that he wanted to add a black female to the team. And that was, 3 or 4 days before she was hired. But then the news, when it broke, was not just that it was a black female, it was that she had actually experienced sexual harassment before. And I believe it had something to do with cash money.
Mm,
She was 19 years old and she had gone to like a recording studio. I'm not too sure. I haven't dug that deep, but it was something surrounding the music industry as well. So yeah, I don't know if that is just to be like, well, his lawyer experienced this, and that here's a woman who's defending him. Optics are a lot, especially when you're trying to try it in the court of public opinion as well as the court of law. Um, in the court of public opinion, you now see, well, if this woman is defending him, he can't really be that bad. I don't know if it's going to work, um, because it's like the accusations against him they're pretty bad.
Right. Why do you think going back to the Anthony Rocco who left Diddy, why do you think just focusing on that story for a minute, why do you think he left him, because that was a pretty big story. Why do you think he left him?
Well, the story that came out was that it was because of disagreement with Mark Agnifilo. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's the lead counsel.
Yeah.
He represented Martin Shkreli. He's a pretty big deal. So I there was differences in opinion as to how to do the defense between them, and that's what was publicly stated. I know that there was chatter in other forums that he felt that it was a losing case type of thing or something, um, and so that's why he removed himself. But the official public chatter was that he butted heads with the lead counsel.
Okay, so so the headline where it says in no wise can I continue was a bit of a clickbait then. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, because then it was like he couldn't continue because he had differences of opinion with the lead counsel. That's pretty much what it was. It was
Yeah.
they didn't share the same approach, or whether who knows.
Okay, so going back to the jury selection, it was reported here saying day two of jury selection in this trial. As part of jury selection, potential jurors have been asked to review a list of people, places that may be referenced during the trial. Some celeb names include Kid Cudi, Michael B. Jordan, and Kanye West. It's common for jurors to be asked about any names that might surface during the trial. In no way do these names indicate alleged wrongdoing. A source tells me that Michael B. Jordan would not be testifying, but I hear the reason is his name was brought up is that he had a brief relationship with Cassie before he went through this. Um, and damn, I'm trying to find.
Yeah, there was a full
Yeah,
list that was kind of being put out on X, but I never was able to verify that list, if it was an actual official list, if it came from the court or anything like that. So I never like dive that deep, but there was approximately 200 names on the list, to where the judge referenced it as being like an appendix for Lord of the Rings, and and he had he ended up having the jurors read the list before entering the courtroom for questioning, because of how time consuming it was. He was like, just print it all out and give him a list. And there was, I don't know if it was a leak of the list or if that was something somebody put together. But there's a creator, Melanie King, on X.
yeah.
She reported on it, and she had a pretty extensive video on who all was on there.
Okay. So TMZ reported that prosecutors still can't find victim three. Trial may begin without her. Diddy's federal trial may begin without one of his biggest witnesses. For the prosecution, cause the feds still can't get in touch with a woman known as victim three. The third day of jury selection in Diddy's federal case wrapped up just a short time ago, and the prosecution told the judge that they haven't been able to locate this unidentified person or get through to the attorney. What do you think is happening here? Do you think person three has gone into hiding? Do you think that Diddy allegedly is intimidating witnesses? Allegedly, like, w- what do you think is going on here?
Um, to me, it looks like a classic case of cold feet, considering the accusations against Diddy and what he has been capable of with, the Kid Cudi and blowing up the car. These
Mm.
things, if they are, true, who wouldn't have cold feet trying to testify? So I feel like it's a classic case of getting cold feet and not wanting to, put your safety in danger, because it's not just the victim, getting lost and not wanting to testify. We're seeing it. We saw it throughout the week on jury selection, where the reason why we still haven't picked a jury. I say we, like I'm on the reason why they. The
Go on.
reason why they haven't picked a jury is because of the fact that they didn't want any of the jurors to get cold feet over the weekend and then end up with trying to scramble at the last minute on Monday. So the way that the jury selection works is that this week they whittled it down to 45 potential jurors. From those
Mm,
45, they whittle it down to 12 jurors and 6 alternates, right?
mm,
So between the time that they picked the 45 on day 3, which I believe was Wednesday, they had time off on Thursday, and then by Friday, that 45 went down to 43 because one of the jurors said, personal reasons, and there's a lot of the jurors trying to get out of it. Even when jury selection was going on, in my opinion, I felt like a lot of the people who were like, "Well, I clicked on an article, so I can't do it because you're not supposed to be reading anything." I felt like they were just saying that because they didn't want to be part of, trying to excuse themselves from it. Because there was a lot of people who were like, I clicked on an article, and I'm like, why would they just click on an article when they know they're not supposed to?
mm,
So I'm not sure if they were doing that to try to not be on the jury, because he was really present as far as what I read on the jury stuff. He was very present where when the jury, potential jurors would come in, he was making eye contact with them. He was shaking his head up and down, like in approval of some of their answers, shaking his head like no and disapproval. So I could see how that could be potentially, kind of scary, especially with the allegations and the accusations that, are being thrusted upon him. So, um, they did lose this victim, but apparently on Friday they did say that, they have the 3 testimonies, because, there's 4 victims that are going to be testifying. So they still have the other 3, is what they said. And I don't know if I just misunderstood and it was they meant the other 3 witnesses that they had, or if they're gonna bring on additional witnesses. It was unclear, the verbiage, um, but they didn't seem like they were worried. But he did tell him we need to know by Monday morning what's going on with that. So that's when a jury selection is going to actually be. So instead of it being Friday, they're going to go ahead and do it Monday morning right before opening statements. And this was so that none of the juries backed out, none of the jury members backed out or anything like that.
okay. Okay. Perfect. Be, going back to the lawyer here for a minute. The female lawyer, like because they I've heard stories that she might be cross-examining Cassie. How do you think that's gonna play out? Are you looking forward to reading about that? Because that's the only way we can find out. Are you looking forward to that? Um,
I mean,
yeah,
it's interesting because this is Maureen Comey.
y-
She's the lead prosecutor. Is
yeah,
it Comey? She's the daughter of the former FBI director James Comey.
yeah,
Comey. I need to learn how to pronounce all these last names if I'm gonna be covering this. But yeah, so she was notable for her role in taking down Ghislaine Maxwell.
yeah.
So that's
Really.
interesting about her, that she's had experience with this. I don't know how she's going to do with you know cross exam or direct examining Cassie and getting the story out of her. The cross examination though is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
Who will do that? They have uh Terry or Atini Geragos, who's Mark Garagos's daughter, as
yeah.
female. They have Alexandra Shapiro, who's a former federal prosecutor. She's also female. And then now we have, is it Nicole?
Yeah, Nicole.
Yeah. So I
What?
don't know if they're gonna get her to maybe cross-examine Cassie. I'm pretty sure they'll probably have a female lawyer do it. A la. Camille
play optics.
Vasquez.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I don't know which one they're going to choose. They have a couple options there. The optics, of course, of Nicole doing it would probably be interesting.
If
She
you're in, sorry, go on, go on.
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, 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 no. Finish what you're saying.
Uh
I interrupted. Go on.
she was previously on the defense team for the uh Equimavarius Nichols in the YSL Rico trial.
Hmm.
So she's also known in the space of celebrity legal drama.
Okay.
Nicole.
Okay. Oh yeah. Not just her. Oh yeah. Brian Steele as well. He was part of the Rico trial, like of the Young Thug Rico trial. So like the way that he's staunchly defended Young Thug, do you think he's gonna do the same with Diddy, or is the public perception too much? Yeah.
I mean, he's got a pretty strong team. I mean, like you said, Brian still defended Young Thug in that YSL Rico trial. And there was a lot of that trial lasted so long that I started following it and then I fell off and I started following it again. It's like the inside joke with a couple of friends of like the trial that keeps on going. But he did very well there, and we're gonna have to see. He's got a younger attorney too, Jason Driscoll, who specializes in civil and criminal federal cases. He used to be a former clerk in SDNY, so that's interesting because he knows the inner workings of the Southern District of New York. Prosecution side probably if he clerked there. And then like we have Xavier Donaldson, who his specialty is I believe he was a former Bronx prosecutor. So I mean, it's all really seasoned people on his team.
Okay. Yeah. Like. I'm. I I'm looking forward to seeing how they put on this case because um I mean like they have a lot to contend, especially how they can't keep out this video evidence, and and how they're gonna play in regards to the witnesses coming in. How would they handle the accusations that's gonna come at Diddy? Like, yeah. So I'm very interested to see how the defense play it, because I think the prosecution have a lot going for them, in my opinion. They have a lot. They have. I don't know the evidence that they have so far outside the Cassie thing, but I don't think they will bring this case if they didn't have a strong case. If they didn't have enough material that was gathered up, from the FBI raids of his home. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Well, I think that one of their defense strategies is going to be, undermining the credibility of the accusers. Um,
Mm,
Basically suggesting motivations like financial gain and stuff like that, because a lot of the accusers were past girlfriends who, um, you know, he was, giving apartments and cars and things to. Um, but, the prosecution can clap back with that, basically saying, all of that stuff, it doesn't undermine, his actions, whether or not um, they were benefiting financially from it or not. I know that's going to be a big hurdle with Cassie because she did end up getting a settlement prior to all of this blowing up, right? So I don't know if
mm.
that's going to come into play. But they both, I see hurdles on both sides, which is what's going to make it interesting to watch because it's going to be, ping ponging back and forth. And Cassie is she's in her third trimester. I think she's pregnant. So it's like a lot of this trial is going to be optics, which is it's pretty crazy that we don't get to have cameras. So the
Yeah,
public
I
can
wish.
see. We're
I
going to
wish.
rely on.
Yeah, this is the one case I wish there was cameras for.
But the juror is going to see a fully pregnant Cassie up there. She's got two other daughters now. And she's, up there telling her story. So at least for me, that's compelling when you have, a woman who's on the other side of things. She's pregnant and is still confronting her accuser, or the person she's accusing. um
Mm,
the optics of that to me is compelling, and I feel like it would be to a juror too. It's like, you know it does have like this emotional empathic thing to it.
right.
So
Oh,
I think
also,
Cassie's going to be really important.
if you're still with us, hi, welcome to the stream. Don't forget to hit that like button and help us out with the YouTube algorithm. If you're watching back on replay, do the same. Leave a comment below. Let me know how you're feeling. But and also don't be afraid to use the chat. We would love for you to join in with us here, and and talk about this trial. So um going back to the jury consultant that was hired for this case, Linda Moreno. Um, uh, what do you think? Her, her, has there been any news in regards to how she is going to help Diddy with the jury selection? Linda Moreno, this is.
Well, I mean, they've had a couple of successes as far as like striking some of the jurors. There was one that had made it through from day 1 into day 2, and then it was a juror who had actually worked for HBO, right? And so I believe this is like right after she was hired. So I don't know if she had anything to do with it, but so this story is about the one of the jurors worked for HBO, and if you guys remember, there was a documentary that came out of HBO. I don't know if it was the downfall of Diddy one or which one, but they objected, and initially the judge was like, there's, they could still go through, but the following
Right.
day they said, this person was maybe close to the production, or they argued something else. The defense argued something else, and they were able to get that juror stricken. So, um, basically sent home.
Mm,
So I don't know if that was something she did, because, like I said, it was right after she had gotten hired. Um, and she supposedly, from what I've read, um, someone who's pretty good at her job and supposed to be really good. So I don't know.
yeah. Yeah.
They do have. I think they have. I don't know the exact number, but they have a certain number of like strikes that they can do for like no reason at all. So that's what's going to be interesting to watch on Monday, like who's going to get sent home, and what. Because right now, I think when they were doing the questionnaires and stuff, they had to have like a basis or a reason to tell the judge, like, this is why this person shouldn't be here.
Yeah. I
And he
mean,
was getting
yeah.
he was getting frustrated, the judge. He was like, you guys are supposed to pre-vet these people, because some of the people that were going in, it was like one of them like worked for the SDNY
Yeah.
currently. There was just a couple of things where he finally like had it, and he was like, are y'all vetting these people before they come to me? Because there's supposed to be like a culling before of, like where they both agree, like, okay, this person's probably not going to be good. There was people who had worked with Diddy before or something like that. So yeah, he kind of got frustrated by day 3, where he's like, y'all need to do a better job of vetting these people before they come in front of me, because we ain't got much more time.
Yeah. The one thing that I think is funny here in this picture is that there are actually people supporting Puff to be free. For all disclosure, my stance is this man should go to prison. This man is gonna go to prison. I think he's gonna be found guilty. I'm gonna let due process play out because I have that thing in me that says everyone deserves a fair trial. But I think based on what I've seen so far, he's going to go to prison. And it surprises me that there are people out there that actually wants him to be free based despite everything that's come out so far. Like, what do you think is going on? Like, what's your stance on this case? Do you have any?
Well, I I have a opinion as far as like what I think people are looking like how what's their perspective, the people who are like pre free puff and all that stuff, is because for one we have SDNY who's has brought cases that have been pretty sketchy in regards to whether there's merit to them or not, so there's a loss of public trust in the SDNY prosecution system already from the get, and even
Mm,
with racially targeting people and things like that, and not just celebrities, just this is just you know Joe Schmo off the streets
mm,
and stuff.
mm, mm.
We had the whole bodega
So
issue with Alvin Bragg's where
is
um
is this the same
some people
team?
were getting prosecuted.
Is this the
I
same
don't
team
think
that
it's the same
prosecuted
team.
Jonathan Majors?
I don't think it's the same team,
Oh, okay.
but it's the same office that brings it. I think to the same
Uh,
DA, I believe, which
yeah.
is Alvin Bragg's. So there is a loss of public trust with them. There is also the where Diddy is like he was never dropped from his label or not label, but from
I
his
was gonna
management,
go.
which is
Yeah,
WME.
yeah.
And a lot of people were like, well, okay, why was he not? So this is the stuff that interests me, like not really like guilty or innocence or stuff. The thing that interests me about this case is the optics of it, of course, the legal drama, but also one of the things where he was not dropped by WME, whereas there's people like Justin Baldoni, who I'm currently covering, that
Yeah.
obviously it's not criminal, it's civil, but he was dropped immediately after the civil lawsuit.
Mm.
Army Hammer, Gina Carano, these people, it was not criminal. Okay, this is just civil lawsuits, and of course Jonathan Majors, which his was a criminal thing, but this
L-
is before any
mm.
videos or anything came out. As soon as he got arrested,
He was
he was
dropped.
dropped.
Yeah,
So
I remember that.
um, and I think something to note is that uh, the fact that he hasn't been dropped is that there is still hope that he is going to beat the case and that he's going to be a bankable celebrity after the fact. We've
Mm.
had cases of criminal trials like Snoop Dogg's murder trial. We had Robert Downey Jr. that they beat the case and then they went on to become really bankable celebrities. Well, I don't know if this is going to happen with Diddy because he has burned a lot of bridges and outside of the music industry with his alcohol brand and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's going to be a bounce back for him, but I think that a lot of people are siding with him either because they have financial ties, possibly. There's also like the fear of you know based on the accusations, what he could, potentially do if he came out and you came out and said he's guilty and then he comes out and he's, trying to go after you. Um because there is a level of kind of danger going into covering Diddy because there was two content creators that came out that said that they had people
Mm.
visiting them, basically saying like who's paying you to report on this and asking a bunch of questions. Now I don't know, I haven't deep dived into how factual that is, but there is some creators that said that they did have people visit them about creating content on the Diddy trial. So um yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm neutral as far as uh whether he's guilty or innocent. It seems like there is a lot of stuff that he did, and watching the documentaries, a bunch of other people have come out. His personal assistant, which I think might be one of the victims, is testifying because I think they said it was going to be three females and one male, and his personal assistant came out on one of the documentaries saying, he tried to lure me into this thing, but um the evidence so far, shows that there was maliciousness on his part. Now whether that escalated to like this Rico and all this other stuff, one of the things that I found interesting that more people aren't talking about is, yes, Cassie, that was a horrible, horrible video, but no, and possibly that's why people are talking about it because of the video. But Kid Cudi in the documents, his car was blown up, and I'm like, well, nobody's really talking about Kid Cudi. Like, is it because he's
Yeah.
a man? Is it because there's no video? But that to me is more extreme than, you know, the domestics. I mean, that was pretty crazy, and you know, I'm not taking away from that, but you know, getting your car blown up and you could possibly have been in it, and you like that to me is like it's a lot scarier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I
So
went on a big long tangent, but
no, no, no. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. But yeah, make sure you hit that like button, guys. If you're enjoying the stream so far, if you're watching this back on replay, make sure that you leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling. Hopefully, you're enjoying the stream. So it came. There was news of there being a trial delay. Because of jury selection, something happened with one of the jurors, so it might take a while to whittle down to select the last alternates and juries. It was reported by Inner City Press saying no, the trial with opening statement is still slated to start on Monday. Judge Subramanian said the peremptory challenges will happen at 9:30 a.m., reducing for the 43 prospective jurors to 12 plus 6 alternates. Then openings. Will that go quickly? We shall see. Do you think that we are gonna start on Tuesday or Monday?
I
What do you
mean,
think?
so the judge in this case, if people like don't know who he is his name's Arun Subramanian. I really need to learn how to pronounce these names, but
Yeah.
um he was confirmed by President Joe Biden, and he runs a pretty tight ship. He's the first South Asian judge to serve on the U.S. District Court, and he runs a really strict courtroom. That's his like mo, that what he's known for. And so I believe that based on how he handled the jury selection process, that, you know, he's going to be strict with, let's take the morning and, you know, whittle this down, and let's start, you know, with opening statements by afternoon. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't see it going into Tuesday unless, you know, some surprises come up or something. But um he was on day 3, once they were like kind of running out of time, he was doing like the group interviews and stuff, and just going no, no, yes, no, you know, going pretty quick with it, to the point where they did end up getting the 45 before the end of the day. So um I do think we're going to probably start on Monday, and with opening statements, which should be pretty interesting
Mm.
on what the,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what they're going to say, because the prosecution's key arguments are basically going to say, you know, this is spanned over 2 decades, because the accusations are spanning from 2003 to 2023.
Right.
So a lot of people were saying that he was getting like gray hairs and stuff to like appeal to, like, I'm older now, da da da. But if you look at the timeline, it was still up to 2023, which was 2 years ago. So they're going to be focusing on establishing this like pattern of coercion and exploitation and things like that, and accusing him of that, basically saying, you know, this spanned over 2 decades, you know, this man needs to be put away. Probably like the R. Kelly approach type of thing. That's what they're going to try and say. Whereas, you know, the defense strategy is basically, you know, it was consensual, you know, and leaning heavily on the racial bias, which they've done already, you know.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, you brought it up. So that's what he looks like right now. He's salt and pepper.
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, they were saying that he's Colonel Sanders, but like I said, the one thing that's going to play is optics, and that's, you know, something that a lot of people are saying, no, you know, it's not optics, it's just that there's no hair dye in jail and things like that. But he's he's allowed 5 outfits, so it's basically 5 sweaters, 5 pants, 5 shirts or whatever. So
Right.
one for each day of trial, I'm assuming. And so they're saying that also the wardrobe has been very like Carlton-esque. Like it's
Oh.
like a dress shirt with the sweater over it, and you know, the slacks or whatever. And then he's got the salt and pepper hair. And so there's a lot of people who are reporting on the optics of it, saying he's trying to appeal to the jury as being a more mature man now, as, you know, maybe even, you know, like saying like I'm older now, like kind of like a trying to get empathy from the jurors. Um,
Right.
so I don't know if that's the reason why, but yeah, there's a little bit of snark going on around about uh, the way that it's sketched out, and that's what we have to rely on is just the sketches of the courtroom because unfortunately we don't have cameras, so
Yeah. Uh,
it'll be interesting to see. There was a creator who called him a fuzzy koala.
oh yeah, I saw that. What was it? Rodden Mango was it that she went to court and was watching Diddy? Didn't even take
Hmm.
any notes. Like I think she released a 1 hour 50 minutes video on what on how just watching Diddy in the courtroom. She didn't take any notes of the of what happened or anything like that. Just watching her. Interesting was how this case is being covered. Yeah, it's very interesting. But do I'm sorry to go back to this, but I can't get my mind out of that video. Do you think that that's this? Do you think it's a smoking gun or it's a distraction? Like, what do you think? Because they said that the video is edited and it's fed up. Like, is it gonna get struck out? Do you think?
Well, it's crazy because initially they were saying they weren't going to use it, so it didn't really matter if people had watched it. But then they were saying there was going to be a version of it that was going to be used. So that whole thing is a little bit confusing because okay, so that video was released by CNN May of last year.
Mm.
And it depicted the incident from 2016, right? But they're saying that the original video was
Hmm.
lost. So I have to like delve more into like what happened with that video or what they're trying to say, but they're saying that that's not the original video that they have, that it's like a an edited video. But then I believe the prosecution said no, we do have the original video. So there's some back and forth going on there. Um, but they're saying that there's like pieces missing from in between, like timestamps and things like that. We have seen videos be smoking guns in other celebrity trials. Like there was a Jonathan Majors
Yeah.
uh, that had the video of what had happened, which was crazy because depending on who you asked, if you were pro or anti Majors, it was like
Mm,
some people saw, of course, look, he's putting hands on her, and other people were like, oh no, he's trying to
mm,
safely put her back in the car. So and then of course we had videos with Heard versus Depp where some people were like, you can tell it's mutual, and other people were like, no, it was all him. Um, but this one, I mean, it doesn't really have that like double, like you can see it one way or see it another way because the way that maybe it was edited or whatever, it's or the way it was sped up, it really does just show Cassie trying to leave, and then he does that to her. Um, but it's not a domestic violence case, so
case, yeah.
yeah, they're trying to use it as like she was abused and coerced into doing these things because I think her stance is that this video happened during a freak off or right immediately after. So they're trying to tie it together.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I have to dive more into the video because I haven't really dived that much into um, the whole lost footage thing of it, or which video or which version is going to be played. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't. Like I said, I can't wait to see how this unfolds. Nom de
Because
plume. Yeah, go on, go on.
what they're charging him for. So like if people are trying to tune in and if it's not domestic violence, what it is, it's racketeering conspiracy, it's sex trafficking by force, transporting for illegal sexual acts, and then possible obstruction of justice. So those are like the four main charges, which the maximum penalty for that is life in prison.
Right. Yeah, yeah, like yeah. So it's yes. So and it's good what you brought out. Like yeah, it's not a domestic violence trial, but i- i- but the video is going to go to, yeah, to show that this is the pattern of coercion that he uses to get people to engage in the free cuffs. I'm guessing because we could see that in the video when when you see Cassie playing dead and she's being kicked. You can see that happening.
And
Yeah.
he's not wearing any clothes, so it does like, maybe they were in the middle of freak off and she got dressed and tried to leave, and he came out with no clothes on, like, you got to go back and finish or whatever it was. I don't know, but I don't feel like the video itself is necessarily the smoking gun, but I do feel like Cassie herself could be the smoking gun. Especially being up there pregnant, testifying against him, and basically like confronting him based on the allegations that have been put forward, for a jury. um I don't know how soon they're going to put her up there. She's going to be the first witness, or if they're going to leave her to the end, kind of like the final nail in the coffin type of thing. But it depends if the jury hears all this stuff, and then that he was blowing up vehicles or allegedly blowing up vehicles and all this stuff, and then they see Cassie up there pregnant confronting, and being, quote, brave enough to confront him. um the optics of that, it could hurt his case.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This will all come down to the jury in the end. Nom de plume, hi, hi, and welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining. She says, "What could possibly be in the original video to justify what happened in that hotel?" The original video could be longer. That's what I'm guessing. It's probably could be from it could be videos from it could be footage from his hotel room going into the lobby from what we saw. So um yeah, like
I
I don't
mean,
know
it
what the
could
prosecution has.
show
Go on.
other people exiting the hotel room. I mean, that's what where my head goes to. Like,
Mm,
was there other people there? If they're saying that was a freak off, is did the original video omit other people coming and exiting, which would probably hurt Diddy's case. And then um what was what did they have any interaction going into the hotel room? Because we all we see is just that interaction. Was there other video of how they were interacting entering the hotel that day, or when they checked in? um Stuff like that would be interesting to have, but obviously, like you said, it's probably long gone.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I don't see anything really that could like take away from that, like what we see. Because I mean, and then he also, the way that I see it is like he admitted to doing it in that apology video, so it's like there is
absolutely. Yeah.
no like wiggle room, and the only wiggle room they did have was to say it was mutual, and that
Yeah,
I mean, that
yeah,
didn't look very mutual to me. She
yeah,
didn't look like she was stepping up or anything. She looked like she was just like, okay, been
yeah,
here before. Let me just.
yeah. Let me just play that.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah, yeah. Like it's yeah, it's weird that he's arguing that. Oh, also, do you think that his lawyers actually advised him to do that video, knowing that uh there is a case being built up against him, or do you think that it was just his hubris that made him made the video? Like what do you think?
Well,
Because yeah, go on. What do you think?
at the time that I don't think he knew that there was a case being built up against him. Because originally this all started, for those who don't know like how it all started. It was like originally all of this started because Cassie was going to write a book about her experience.
Mm,
And she contacted Diddy and his lawyers. Her team contacted Diddy and his lawyers, basically saying, you know, this is going to go in the book, and you can settle, um, so that it's not in the book. And this is all alleged, of course. This is just from what I've read. That's online. So, but basically, he refused, and that's when she filed the civil lawsuit with all the information. And my understanding of that is that the federal prosecutors then took that lawsuit, because that lawsuit settled within like not even 24 hours. Like it was literally from, that afternoon to the next morning where it was like, okay, it's settled. So he did give her the money or whatever. Obviously that's a closed settlement. We don't know what exactly how they settle, but
Yeah.
then the federal prosecutors, that's when they put together the case, because the video was in May 24. I don't know, let me look it up to when did Cassie settle, which one was before, cuz
I think it
I'm
was
not sure about that timeline.
September 2020, September 2023. I think she settled on
So the video
16th.
came out after then.
Yeah, the video came out in
Yeah, November of
2024.
2023. So then the video came out in May.
Yeah.
So then I'm not sure, were they already, like, I don't know. I don't know that timeline. I'm gonna have to sleuth that timeline, because that is interesting. If he already knew that they were building a case,
Mm.
that is interesting. Why would he put out that video? I thought he didn't know that there was a case yet against him. Let me see. When did the federal? Let me look it up, because that's an interesting point that you brought up. It's like, for me, I felt like it was just, the typical celebrity damage control. Like, I've gone through therapy. We just saw recently
Mm.
Russell Brand over there in the UK. I know y'all got that criminal trial going on over there.
Yeah.
Um, he
I'll be
put out a video.
yeah. Yeah, like I'm going to be following that case closely as well, to see to see what it come out, because um like
So the
I'm
federal
all
the fe-
gone.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was only gonna say I'm very interested to see the PR side of this, of cases like this, and how it's spun. So already we have heard Russell Brand, deny it, but I wanna cover it, so that I see the differences between his denial and the actual case going on. But yeah, so sorry, continue. What
Yeah,
what were
well,
you gonna
I
say?
just I looked it up, so I'm looking up the timeline right now. So yeah, you're right. So the federal raids of his home were March 2024. So by the time the video came out
Mm,
in May
he knew.
of 2024, then they had already raided his house. So yeah, why would he admit to the abuse? It says
Yeah.
that they were vetting him immediately after the lawsuit in 2023. So that I was right about that they right away started to build a case against him um
Right.
for that. But I wonder who advised him. Was he still under Mark Geragos at that time? Because I know that he had him as a lawyer. I guess that'll be for a future stream. We're like in real time right now. Like, I'm trying to
Right.
sleuth it out in real time. But um, I don't know when Mark Geragos and Diddy, um, when he represented him or when he started. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sleuth that one out, because that is an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Let's go to the chat once more. Nom de Plume says, can the settlement figure be disclosed within this trial? I doubt it. They signed an NDA, so on
The what?
settlement figure.
Mm.
It's a good question. It's a good question. Like, it's one that I have to, hit up a lawyer and try to find out for, for the next stream. But based on what I do know of the law so far, because they settled, they had already signed that they would have signed an NDA that would have precluded them to discuss, you know, the details of the settlement or anything like that. So I doubt that's gonna come out unless if Cassie brings it out, it's gonna break the NDA and she can be sued. So uh, is she gonna take something like that on? Is she gonna, blurt it out and say, yeah, like I settled for 30 million because of blah blah in mid courtroom? I don't know, but I don't think they can discuss the settlement figure.
I
Yeah,
think that the defense is probably not going to be worried on an actual figure as much as just the fact that there was a settlement, because settlement usually does mean some kind of financial incentive, right?
Mm,
So I think the defense side is probably going to lean on the fact that there was a settlement with her, and the prosecution. I mean, it doesn't really benefit them to bring up the settlement. I don't think, because again, it's going to be the defense that's going to be bringing it up. Their rebuttal to her settling. I mean, that was a civil lawsuit. These are criminal charges.
mm,
She's entitled to that legally. That's the legal process. You bring a civil lawsuit, and if you both mutually agree, it gets settled. Like, there's no wrongdoing on her part there. um on the legal side. Now, optically, there's people who are going to say she was in it for the money. She was trying to write a book, this and that. But I think the prosecution is going to lean on, she didn't really, there's no wrongdoing there. It was all legal. It has nothing to do with the criminal part of this. That's what they're
right.
probably going to say.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So uh I want to know, like, how do you think this is gonna turn out? Like, I know the case hasn't started yet. I know the case hasn't started yet, but do you think, how do you think this is gonna turn out? Do you think that the public is gonna give Diddy a fair ride, like, based on everything that's been that's come out of the media so far? Like, what do you think?
Well, I've been in a lot of like the forums, as far as like YouTube, and like, just even prepping for this stream. And I've watched the documentaries and things like this. So there is a lot out there, stemming back for decades on his behavior, right?
Mm,
And it's not like this just came to light, in 2024. There's been chatter about, what Diddy has done to people or all this stuff. I don't know if you know of a woman named Jaguar Wright.
yeah,
uh
yeah. She's
she's
crazy. She's
also currently
crazy.
being sued. We need to follow that one. I definitely, I want to keep my eye on that one, because she's a talker, and then somebody finally said, "All right, well, if you're gonna talk," and that was Brian McKnight. But she's been talking about, all kinds of different men in the music industry, but notably Diddy was one of the ones that, she kind of touted as, look, here's my validation that I was right all these years, in talking about him, which, it could be true, it could not be true. But
Yeah,
so there's already been chatter where people were already tiring of Diddy, and as the years went on, he didn't really have that big of a following. I don't know exactly what the numbers were on his new album, the Love album. I
yeah,
know he got people like Bieber. There was a lot of features on there.
yeah.
um and then I know that he tried to give a lot of the artists that he had, maybe done wrong in the past, or allegedly, uh their rights back to their music and things like that. I know Aubrey O'Day was one that did not sign the NDA. I don't know if that was, the CYA, cover your ass type of deal, or whether he was genuinely trying to make amends, as he's getting older, what the deal was with that. But I know Aubrey was one of the ones who may even come up as a witness in court, or I know she was one of the names on the list of whether you knew her, because
Mm,
she has been one of the vocal voices against Diddy. Um, so there are a lot of people I've seen that are like, he needs to go to prison. He did it. He's guilty. Even celebrities like 50 Cent, he came out and he said, uh, this whole domestic violence thing is, this approach is not going to work, Your Honor. He came out with like a meme, he be trolling and stuff.
mm.
But his
Yeah,
incentive with that, I think, is because the mother of his children came up in some of the civil lawsuits against Diddy as being one of the woman who was partaking in this, across state lines type of thing, which is alleged, and she denied it and all that. But I think that's where, his anti Diddy stuff comes from. And then, we did talk about Ye, who was pro Diddy. And then WME is obviously pro Diddy because they haven't dropped him. So, they haven't like said it out loud, but I mean,
yeah,
not dropping him says a lot,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he does still have people in his corner. And then, for those like super
And
sleuths who like to
Geragos as
dive
well.
in,
Gone.
Super sleuths who like to dive in. I don't really dive into stuff like that because it gets into like dangerous grounds and stuff. But there's the Diageo aspect of his alcohol brand and him trying to sue Diageo. There's a lot of super sleuths who have dived into that aspect of, perhaps this is why the government is going after him now, because there's some big players in the game and he tried to step up to some of these big players. So for those who want to cover that and super sleuth that, by all means. I know I'm not gonna delve into it, but there is that aspect that, to make people aware of, that there's certain different several different ways of thinking about what's going on with Diddy here. Whether it's, him being attacked or people are coming after him, or whether it's just, after 20 years of, wreaking havoc on people, if it's just his time. We've seen other celebrities
Absolutely.
like R.
Mm.
Kelly who went through it, and there's still people who say, R. Kelly was targeted and things like that, which, there's always going to be the other side. We still have, I don't know if you follow the Idaho 4 and Brian Koberger in
Yeah,
like
yeah. I,
criminal. There's still people who are, they have a name for them called pro burgers. There's still pro burgers out there, even though with all the evidence that are like, he didn't do it, this was a cover up. And I know Candace Owens was one of the ones that was going to delve into it while she's on maternity leave, saying that it might have something to do with the university and stuff. But they just had a Dateline episode that came out with more evidence where it's, it's pretty hard to overcome the evidence.
mm.
And I know that you had reposted something about how I think it was you that reposted something about, like, these days we don't like do the presumption of innocence. It's just like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
guilty,
Yeah,
and we don't
yeah.
allow the court to play out because of social
Right,
media, and that's why it's being played out in two different aspects. The court of
right.
public
Mm.
opinion, the legal court, and
Yeah,
some people don't
yeah.
want to wait for the legal process to play out, and they're just like, Diddy's guilty. So I guess we'll see what evidence they have, and what how it goes from there. But it's really interesting to me, uh outside of the legal aspect, is the, who's backing him, who's not backing him, the celebrity world, because the music industry is just similar to Hollywood. There's
Mm.
inner workings and, cover ups, and, if, like I said, for the super sleuths that want to go into the whole, you know inner workings of the music industry, it gets pretty crazy in there, just as bad as Hollywood, probably.
Mm.
um
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like yeah, hopefully he does get, I mean, I think he's gonna get a fair trial. Like the judge seems like the perfect judge for the case. Um I can they like I know how hard it is to prove RICO, so I don't think they can prove that, but prove I know I don't think they can prove RICO, in my opinion. Going back to the charges, I don't think they can prove RICO. But in terms of the sex trafficking by force and fraud and transporting of illegal sex acts, I think they have enough to maybe bring that one home. Like, what do you think of the charges? Like, and the chances of those charges getting through in court. What do you think?
yeah, I agree with the Rico, that is hard to prove. But um it depends on the witnesses. I feel, because I try to sleuth out the other witnesses. I thought one of them might have been Young Miami, because there was some, and this is all alleged, obviously.
Yeah.
There was some chatter going on that victim number two was a girlfriend of his from up to 2021 or 2022, which, I researched that, and that he was dating Young Miami. But I know she publicly came out and said, that wasn't my experience with him, that never happened. So that was kind of a dead end, trying to sleuth the other victims. We know just Cassie is victim number one. Victim number three is MIA. She might not testify. And then I know that victim four may be a male, and I'm wondering, is it Kid Cudi? Is it the personal assistant? Like, I'm curious to find out who that victim is. And I wonder if they're gonna remain Jane Does and not have like sketches or their names, um, be put out in the public. I wonder how that's gonna go. That's interesting to me because victim three, prior to disappearing, had said she was gonna testify with her name.
Mm,
So I don't know if they have an option to use their name or not use their name, how that goes. Definitely have some kind of evidence that he was crossing state lines, obviously, because they must have, video evidence or, even like private jet info. Who knows what they have on as far as like hotel receipts, you know what I mean? Like that he was doing these things out of state and sending text messages to these women like, hey, meet me here. So those might stick. I'd have to further sleuth what the actual years are per charge just to see
mm,
like adding it up, like if they found him guilty on two charges, would they like how many years would he get for just that? Would that not be a life sentence? Is or some of those life sentence? I wonder if the life sentence is just the RICO charge. I haven't really sleuthed the charges that well, but it'd be interesting to see because a lot of the times the jury, and we saw that in Depp Heard and in other trials where they'll give, and even in Jonathan Majors, they'll give one charge to one person and then like another charge to the other. You know what I mean? Like
mm.
they'll say, like with Jonathan Majors, they said he wasn't guilty of the doing it with intent, but he was guilty of doing something, but he didn't do it with intent. And so it got kind of blurry when covering that case because a lot of creators were like, you know, he did it, like he got charged, but it was like, no, he got charged for basically accidentally hurting her, not purposely hurting her,
Yeah.
Um, and but a lot of people were like it was DV and this and that. Um, and then in Heard and Dev, we saw um, Amber got two in her favor, and then he
Oh yeah.
got three in his. So a lot of the times, they call it half on a baby or whatever, where they'll because there's like four or five charges. I'm wondering, will they find him less guilty? On some of them, and then give one or two charges. How that'll work? Because it's interesting that the jury's gonna, be a bit scared of or intimidated because of the charges that are
Nature. Yeah.
against him.
Yeah.
I keep going back to Kid Cudi. That's my. I know your Roman Empire is the Cassie video. My Roman Empire is Kid Cudi's car getting blown up because that to me is insane.
Yeah. Num the Plume says you see Ye's opinion as credible. Listen, I don't see Ye's opinion as like I just like I think he's speaking out against Hollywood right now. So um uh I don't think I think I'm surprised by his support of Diddy. I'm surprised. I think he's trolling by him supporting Diddy. But I also have that of a skeptical mind, that of a curious mind that's gonna get me killed one day, unalive. That's gonna get me unalive one day. Oh damn, they're gonna demonetize the stream. Anyway, what's I gonna say? Um, Yay, he's speaking out a lot, against what's happening in Hollywood, etc. So I've gone into a little rabbit hole in regards to, what he's been saying, and like I've gone into a rabbit, and linking it back to Diddy, and I don't know whether to take it seriously or not. If I'm being honest with you, I think it's very interesting. I don't want to talk about the early stuff, like the conspiracies around him, and what people have been saying around him. I just want to talk about a trial, but I find that like he that Diddy is a very interesting figure in all this, and I do wonder, if he's being targeted. I do wonder that, because if Ye is speaking out, speaking in support of him, like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think. Like going
It's
down the rabbit hole, as
it's
I
compelling, but a lot of people are saying, look at the source. Look at Yay. He was on the nitrous, and A lot of people discredit Ye in his opinion. And like you said, it could lead you down these conspiracy rabbit hole type things of the industry and what's going on. But for me, the most challenging, and it's like I have two Roman empires. I'm a backtrack. It's not just Kid Cudi in the my other Roman empire, and the one that I just cannot stop thinking about is WME did not drop him. They didn't drop him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like
This is this is all
if
very
it's this
interesting.
bad and he's about to go to life prison, and I mean, we saw the WME saw the video. Like, why are you not distancing yourself from him?
Yeah,
Um,
and yet everyone has like every celebrity from Will Smith to Whoopi Goldberg, all them people have yeah they've all distanced themselves. So that's a very good point that you brought up again because uh, it's yeah it's surprising and I'm plus like going back to the R. Kelly thing, the old R. Kelly and what happened with him. He didn't have that many. I don't think he had one civil suit against him, but did he have 60? Up to 60, I should say. I don't know the
I
definite
think
number.
some of them got downplayed because Tony Busby, right? Like a lot of the Tony Busby ones are no longer. Maybe I don't know. I have to look it
Yeah.
up, but I know he had the whole
Busby's
hotline and he
reputation.
wasn't
Oh,
really
Rob
petty.
Busby's
And
reputation after Jay-Z is crazy. Like,
so
yeah,
I don't know how that's gonna go with that, but
yeah,
yeah, even the civil lawsuits. But for me, it's like I just looked it up. He only signed with WME in 2021. It seems like that's the earliest it says. He signed with WME, so he's a newer client.
yeah.
I don't understand that aspect. I don't understand even just based on the video. The Ari Emanuel, who is the CEO of WME, I think, or he's not anymore. He stepped down, but he was writing really hard for Baldoni and Justice for Women, and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and saying this justice for women. So I'm thinking to myself, like, well, what about justice for Cassie? Like, she's a woman. There's video evidence. Meanwhile, we don't really have video evidence yet of anything with Baldoni versus Lively. So maybe that's why WME is my Roman Empire, because I'm seeing Diddy versus Baldoni, and yes, Baldoni's a much less known celebrity, right? He hasn't been. I mean, I don't know how long he's been in Hollywood. From Jane the Virgin, I'm not sure when that started, but he's not
that's
that well
that's
known, right?
2018. That's 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's not that well known. And obviously Diddy's like he's the hip hop mogul. He's a legend in hip hop. He's blown up. He had Bad Boy. He went into Diageo. Like he's pretty big. So it's understandable that the caliber of people, Baldoni's disposable. Whereas, again, do they think that he's going to beat this case and become bankable, a la Snoop Dogg? Because a lot of people, especially like I've talked to, like didn't even know that Snoop Dogg ever was on trial for murder. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's
A lot.
long been forgotten.
He made a song about it. He made a song about it. Murder was a case
Yeah,
back in 1995. Yeah, he made a song about it. Sorry, continue.
and he came back and
Yeah,
was really
completely.
bankable. Like he rebranded. He was like doing stuff with Martha Stewart. He went into Jamaican music. He's had like probably 5 or 6 rebrands since then. Um, and so I'm wondering, is that what they're thinking that's going to happen with Diddy? But I don't know, like how does he rebrand after this? It'd be interesting to see like
Ah.
what's going to happen with him. Does he come back into the hip? Do him and Ye make an album? I mean, do they go on a world tour? I don't know.
The question is, would you go to the tour? Would you go to the album tour if they do release an album?
I don't know. No, probably not. Probably not. But uh, yeah, that I mean,
Gonzalez family
they
gone.
they go on a tour in Europe because that's where he's going touring. So like there might still be a market over there for him.
Yeah. Gonzalez family says Diddy ain't getting out. He's not convicted yet, so hopefully let's hopefully you know you know e- hopefully the public um give gives him a fighting chance. Um, the case ain't done. I'm not saying like I'll be very surprised. This is what I'm saying. I'll be very surprised if he beats these charges. Like they gotta find him guilty in one, but yeah. Gonzalez family says Diddy is done. Stick a fork in him. He ain't seen the light of day. What do you think of these comments? Do you agree with them?
Um, I mean, I think that there is a big giant hurdle, but if there's a team, I mean, we've seen other trials, right, that have come out on the other side, right? OJ being one of them, right?
Yeah,
Really big one. We've seen recently a lot of people who thought Karen Reed, I know you're doing the Karen Reed case, Karen Reed was
yeah,
guilty, and then she's now having her second trial and stuff. So there's I've seen trials, and I followed true crime before this. I was a true crime web sleuth before I got into the celebrity madness that we're in
mm.
now. And so I've seen some surprising turns when it comes to um good lawyers, having the right lawyers, the best that money can buy, which is what Diddy has right now, and overcoming obstacles and being surprised. Because to be honest, for me, I was surprised with the Jonathan Majors trial that it went the way it did, um,
Mm.
and he was found, guilty of those two charges because
Yeah,
the evidence was, it was muggy at best, and
yeah,
maybe that's why the jury ended up saying, he didn't do it intentionally, but there was some accidental damage. I ended up being like, okay, well, that's why we have a jury, and that's how it happened. But um, he's having a tough time coming back from that. Um, I'm more interested in whether he does beat it. What's the comeback gonna be? Like, how does he come back from it? Like, does the public accept him again? Or is the public going to reject him because too much damage has been done? Because uh, what maybe for our next stream we could sleuth that as far as like his album sales and how was he doing prior to this? Were people
right.
already tiring of Diddy? Was Did he have a fan base? What was going on? Because I know Aubrey O'Day was actively speaking throughout these last couple of years from 2020 and on. She was constantly being a voice. Jaguar Wright was constantly being a voice. Was that type of stuff affecting him? It'd be interesting to see the analytics, the SEOs on Google search and stuff like that. Like, were people still actively searching him and pursuing his music? What were the numbers like? I think it'll
Right.
give us a better idea. But I'm staying neutral. He's got people showing up at people's houses, so I'm gonna say I'm staying neutral. If I'm gonna cover this, I'm staying neutral to the very end. Um, there's there's definitely evidence that he did commit domestic violence. That
Yeah.
is, I don't think, a question. I think everybody knows that that was a terrible, terrible thing he did. Um, and so yeah. But as far as whether he's gonna, be doing prison for life,
Mm.
he's got, like, I mean, his team. I want to go back to his team. His team is so stacked. It's
Yeah.
stacked. It's stacked.
Yeah. He's got the money for it, so why not splash it out when your life depends on it? Nom de Plume says, "I got a horrible feeling he is going to be found not guilty. If he is found not guilty, it'll be down to some clever lawyering. I believe it's going to be down to how persuasive the case that they put on in defense of him is going to be. But I hope that the investigation is airtight. You know, none of this red solo cup business to gather evidence. Like I'm talking real airtight. Um, I hope that the investigation was thorough and like I don't know. I
Uh,
think
Someone in
I
the chat
yeah
brought up Kim Porter, basically
yeah
saying, so you know what? Like, yeah, let me bring this up because this is fairly new. This just happened on Friday. Now, like, this person reminded me of the Kim Porter aspect. I'll Be Sure was on a morning show. Okay. So, dang, I can't believe I forgot about this. This was like brand new tea. Um, I'll Be Sure, for those that don't know, was Kim Porter's first, I guess, baby daddy. Um, and Kim Porter is the mother of a couple, I think three or four of Diddy's kids. She ended up passing away from pneumonia, and Albie Sure went on this morning show, and he said it with his whole chest. Okay, I don't know if you can bring it up. Um, I don't know if you could just like search it up. Albie Sure morning show. He said it with his whole chest, basically
I
saying that
think I saw.
he thinks that Diddy had a part of trying to hurt him, and that's why he was in a coma and in the hospital, and that he also might have had a part in what happened to Kim. And obviously Kim passed away from pneumonia, and he was in a coma due to organ failure. So I don't know, make that what you will, but he went on national television. I don't know what if it was a national TV show. I wanted to say it was like CBS Morning, but um it, it he went on national TV. I mean, I saw the. I wish I could pull it up. Did you find it? It might have gotten
Is
pulled.
on Fox 2 days ago, believe. I know
Yeah,
which one you're talking about, but
Friday.
it's 9 minutes long though. It's 9 minutes long.
Oh, we'd have
I
to
hate it.
clip it for the next time, but
Yeah, yeah.
it might be on X. So basically, he says that he was subpoenaed for the trial, but he's not sure if he will be testifying or not. So now I'm like, oh wait, he might even be victim four, the male victim.
Mm,
Who knows? But yeah, so the chat did bring up Kim Porter and stuff that she's coming back. There was also the book that she allegedly wrote with things like that. But I don't know if all of that's going to come to play in this trial. Obviously, the Albie Shear stuff. He's saying that to buy his book. He said buy the book. Because they asked him like well how like like what you're saying is these charges are pretty crazy. How is this happening? And he was like, well, it's in the book. And yeah, that I can't believe I missed that. That was something that shocked me because I'm like, you're basically, and he didn't say allegedly either. He said that with his whole chest.
sue
Like,
me. I don't care.
is
Basically.
he saying that to try and sell a book? I don't know, but it's interesting because he did in the interview make a whole point about how the last time that they were all together was at his son's, Albie and Kim's son's Netflix movie. He started a Netflix movie, so it was the premiere of that movie, and that it was a weird thing that he said. Cause so he says that he was hugging Diddy. He's like, it was like a whole family event. All the kids were there. He's like, me and Diddy were hugging, and that he turned over and looked at Kim, and Kim gave him like the cutthroat signal, like, no, 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 like don't be doing that.
Mm.
So I thought that was interesting that he even brought up that story because he was basically trying to allude to say like I thought everything was cool, and then Kim was trying to, yeah, that's what he was saying. He's like, Kim tried to warn me um about him, like in a sense where Albie's thinking like, oh, they're co-parenting and being all cool, but behind the scenes Kim knew that Diddy may not have been that cool on him. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the
This
chat bringing up Kim.
this case is. I mean, when you bring up Kim Porter, that's how you know that this case, the rabbit hole runs deep in this case. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like there's so much. There is so much to discuss, but yeah, but that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, citizen journalists, for joining me. You
Yeah,
have
no
been
problem.
You've been amazing. I appreciate it, and thank you everyone as well for joining and utilizing the chat. Gonzalez family, Nom de Plume, thank you so much, and everyone that's watching back on replay. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Yeah, before we go, I'll just read the last chat out. What are his daughters saying? Still standing by him? I have no idea. I have no idea. Like I haven't heard any media. I know that the mom is standing by him. I know that the mom believes that this is all targeted. So um
Yeah, his daughters just came out publicly, not in defense of him or anything, but they did post a video on like Thursday or Friday of them going to the Beyonce concert and stuff. And so, they hadn't really been on social media, so they did come out recently. Uh, as far as everybody knows, his whole family is standing behind him. We've seen the boys, his sons, you know, through the early process going to court. I don't see a scenario where they had the whole like birthday party for his one daughter, the little one, where they recorded, them talking to him from prison and stuff. I don't see a
Hmm.
scenario where they would, turn on him at this point. It seems like they're gonna go in as a family again with the optics. They're probably gonna be seating all the kids in the front and with his mother and stuff like that, for optics. I would say one interesting thing is that his two sons in the I know we're wrapping up, but
Yeah.
the little Rod the little Rod civil case against him,
Mm. Hmm.
that had originally Justin Combs, and I forget what his other son's name is, but uh, they've been recently dropped as of last week, from that case, so they're no longer being mentioned in that case, which I thought was interesting.
Oh,
But yeah,
I didn't even know that.
it's a lot. It's a lot to dive in, and hopefully we can catch people up on Sundays and continue to
Yeah.
delve into it safely, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Allegedly, allegedly, allegedly.
Everything is alleged. Thank you again, Susan
And if
CJ.
anybody wants to follow the Baldoni and Lively legal drama, which
Yes.
also has a lot of twists and turns, you can find me on X, on C
Let me post
Journalist
your link.
24.
Let me post your link up.
Um,
Uh,
and yeah, so I'm gonna be diving into the Diddy as well and covering some other stuff. One of the creators of Baldoni versus Lively, Leanne Newton, she's a lawyer in the UK, but she covers it from the legal aspect because she knows how to read law. Not
okay.
necessarily she's works in the US or anything like that, but she has, the ability to be able to like break it down, and she looks up the laws and all that stuff. And so I'm going to try and start this like little chat show with her, celebrity court chatter, um on like all the different cases, because there's so many celebrity court cases. You got, Drake versus UMG, you got,
Yeah.
a bunch of them. So me and her are going to try and collab on the just updating people on all the different cases going on. So you guys can check that out here coming soon as well.
Thanks for the kind words, not nom de plume. And thanks again, CJ, for joining and spitting the tea and giving us all the tea. Like we'll be back covering all the days from I believe opening statements to day 4. It should be. But I'll be keeping a very close eye on the case. But yeah, I'm gonna try. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have you back for Sunday. um yeah, that's about it. Hopefully everyone
Appreciate
has a
you guys. Thank
hopefully
you for having me. It was
no
fun.
worries, no worries. Hopefully everyone has a great day or evening or night wherever you are at. Take care of yourselves and have a good one.
You
Bye for
too.
now.
Bye.
The show is over, but that does not mean that the fun has to end. And I know how cliche that sounds, but really and truly, the fun really does not have to end. You know how good our streams are and how fun they can be. So we have decided to put them all into a podcast and a playlist format for you to binge on if you so wish. We also do recaps and clips of the best bits, the worst bits, all of those bits, lady bits, every bits, whatever it might be. We do that as well, and we upload onto the channel so in case you guys just wanna you don't wanna watch the full thing, you have the option of watching just the short versions. It's up to you. You have the choice. You have the power, like E-Man. So without further, you can also check out the main Heinz website where we continue the discussions over there, but in a more broader context to try and get into the psychology of why all these things happen. The end screen should be up here so that you guys can see the content you guys can watch. The playlist will be on your left hand side or right hand side, I don't know which one, and the video that and a recap clip should pop up here. So without further, I'll just say bye, and I'll see you on the next stream, and most importantly, the Unintentional Juror podcast. See you there. Oh, oh, oh.